everything basically done, like all the pictures, all the output from SPSS. Remember, I took those pictures and I have them all done. Now I'm coming back in here and I'm going to start inputting my stuff in. Okay, so I'm just going to start inserting things. I place them in my Google Drive so I can see them right away. So I'm just going to start inserting things, inserting pictures. Honestly, I'm inserting from my drive. I'm going to start with, I think, this one. I'm going to insert that. If I'm not going to leave it here because it doesn't work for me, but I want relative frequencies and I can see them from the percentages here. And we know relative frequencies should look like this. At the end of the day, should add up to 1. At the end of the day, should add up to 1. So I can just copy from this table. I'm not going to leave it there. Cumulative relative frequency meaning what? It means that it needs to, at the end, give you not 100%, but it gives you 1. So yes, you're going to start at 0.20 and then you add 0.20.0.56, give you 0.56. Then you have 0.80, then you have 0.96, and finally you get to 1. So this table helped me, but that's it. It helped me. Now the next one is find the sample mean, sample standard deviation, and all of that. I have that table here. So I'm going to insert the table from my Google Drive. I think it's this one right here. I'm going to insert it and make it a bit small. All right, there goes the table. Maybe we can just plug the table somewhere here instead, and then we can use it. All right, so what's the SPSS output is given to us up here. Interpretation, find the sample mean. You have to report the mean, the average number of movie watched. That's the interpretation, right? The average number of movies watched is 1.48 or 1.5, 1.5, right? 1.5 movie, but it doesn't make sense, right? So it's what are we gonna do? Yeah, it's 1.5, 1.48. We gotta move on. The mean is 1.48. All right. What's the sample standard deviation? So you report and then you give the interpretation. You report, you give the interpretation. I hope everybody saw what I did. The histogram, you report, you give the interpretation, you insert. What's my image here? It's in my drive. My histogram is right here. See? This is my histogram. Give a comment. Well, I can give most student will watch one movie the previous week. That's a comment. Most students watched one movie the previous week. Okay, so this is a comment. Whatever I'm leaving here is for you guys to do. I'm not going to do everything for you. Did I complete the chart? Yes, I did. So highlight that, bold, make it yellow. Yes, we did complete it. Find the Q1, Q2, Q3. We already found it. So it's a matter of what? Reporting it. So Q1 is 1, Q2 is 1, Q3 is 2. So you jot it down, right? You have to report and then you have to interpret. So Q1 is 1, Q2 is also 1. 1 and Q3, I believe it's, what was it? Let's go back up. It's 2. Okay, interpretation. You have to interpret each one of those. So one thing I can say is 25% of the students will watch one 25% or less or maybe I could just say 75. Let me interpret Q3, yeah? 75% of students or less will watched 2 movies. 75% of students or less watched 2 movies or less the previous week. 75% of the student or less watched 2 movies or less the previous week. So you guys can interpret Q2 and Q1 on your own. Same thing for the 40th and 90th percentile. 40th percentile, you report P40, you report P90, and then you interpret in the same style as Q3. The box plot, you insert your box plot, insert it. So let's insert the image from our drive. Mine is from the drive. Yours can be from your computer, wherever. So there goes my box plot. Okay. And then I can comment, right? As you can see, we have an outlier. So you can comment on the outlier. You know, there is an extreme element here, which is 4. It's very extreme. So it's very unlikely for a student to have watched 4 movies the previous week. See? That outlier, we have an outlier at 4 right there. It's very unlikely. It's very unusual. It's improbable, right? It's improbable for a student to have watched 4 movies the previous week. What portion of the students saw fewer than 3 movies? So now go back here. Fewer than 3 movies. Fewer means 2 or less. So you can pick it up from here. Fewer means it's 80%. You can look at the cumulative relative frequency and say that, right? So 80% of the students watched fewer than 3 movies. That's that. All right, your line graph, you insert it here. Your stem plot, you insert it here. You already have everything you need, okay? So moving on to exercise number 2. This one, you can do it on your own. I won't do it for you. They gave you 3 students here with the GPA GPA, and then school average, GPA, which is your score, your school average, which is your mean, and your standard deviation. So you have to find a Z score for each of these students. So what I will do if I were you is I will create another column on the right. So I will insert a new column on the right. Let's see. Where do we insert things here? Let's see. Insert a column to the right. And I'll call it Z score. Okay. And then I will find the Z score for each one of these people. For Thai, for Vichet, for Kamala. So for me to find the Z score, for example, for Thai, okay, the Z score for Thai, I will have to do, and you can literally do this by hand, you have to do the 2.7 minus 3.2, and you're going to divide that by 0.8. It's going to give you a specific value. You have to do the same thing for Vichet, and you're going to have to do the same thing for Kamala. All right. You're going to do the same thing for Vichet. You do the same thing for Kamala. All right. You're going to have to change these things here, right? You change it. It's going to give you some specific values here. This one is 87 minus 75 divided by 20. You're going to have to do the same thing for Kamala. Once you find the Z score for these people, then I need you to sketch it, graph it, and place it on a Z curve. And then interpretation. What do you see from here? Remember what we talked about z-scores. I'm going to give you a hint. A hint is to look into unusual scores. Unusual z-score. What is an unusual z-score? Unusual z-score. And how do you compare a z-score? Okay, how do you compare z-scores? Another thing I need you to look at, go back to section 2.4, and it should help you finish this exercise. Okay, when I say sketch it, you could use something here in Google Doc that's called what is it called? Let's see. You can sketch in Google document. What's the name of that thing? I'm trying to figure it out. Image. No, drawing. There we go. You can draw here. If you go to drawing, you can literally sketch anything you like. So if I wanted to get, for example, a z axis, notice I use this line. And then if you want to get a dribble or whatever, a scribble, you can scribble yourself. You use your mouse to do that. I'm not doing a good job. This is not a good job. But make sure that you label everything. So this is your z-axis. Make sure you label everything, okay? So I'm just giving you an idea. Or you could use any software online, or you could use, your own pen and paper and then take a picture of that and insert it. But line all your z-scores here and notice where they fall and compare them according to the actual problem. What is it that we're doing here? What are we talking about? Scores of who? Students of what? So that's what I mean by comparing them and giving me an interpretation. Okay? So that's what I mean by that. When you save, it comes here. When you save it, it comes here. So this is how you're going to do exercise number 2. So now let's move on to exercise number 3.